You could feel the game tilting long before the final whistle, not because one team suddenly outplayed the other, but because the balance kept getting nudged by yellow flags. What should have been a clean, dramatic Thanksgiving duel instead turned into a debate about where the game actually ended, on the field or at the ref's fingertips. Dallas came away with a 31-28 win, but what people are still arguing about is how many of those yards were decided by penalties and whether a couple of calls on the Cowboys' final drive changed the outcome. Reuters, there's no denying the football moments that made this a great game. Dak Prescott carved up the Chiefs with big-time throws when Dallas needed them. CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens made explosive plays, and Patrick Mahomes answered with his usual late-game wizardry. But the stat line that won't sit well in Kansas City is the penalty total. The Chiefs were flagged 10 times for 119 yards, a number that repeatedly erased momentum and extended Cowboys drives at the worst times for Kansas City. Andy Reid and his staff were blunt about it afterward. Penalties were a killer in what was otherwise a winnable night. Reuters. What escalated the debate were a pair of pass interference flags late in the game, especially one on Trent McDuffie in tight coverage of CeeDee Lamb that wiped away a potential stop and gave Dallas a fresh set of downs. That call and another similar spot earlier on the drive felt small and subjective enough that fans and analysts immediately labeled them ticky-tack, and social feeds lit up accusing the officiating crew of being inconsistent. When multiple high-leverage penalties fall on one side in a single drive, it's inevitable the conversation turns to fairness and standards. SI. The reaction wasn't just heat from unhappy fans. Analysts pointed to the calls as game-turners, and social media churned with clips and hot takes within minutes. Some commentators argued the defensive calls were borderline at best. Others noted missed enforcement on the Cowboys sideline after a play where George Pickens briefly removed his helmet on the turf, technically a 15-yard penalty that went unflagged. Those kinds of split-second enforcement decisions are the friction points that make officiating controversies feel less like isolated mistakes and more like systemic inconsistency. PFSN still? It's important to remember that officiating doesn't play the game alone. Kansas City had opportunities to shorten the list of complaints, a few costly drops, near takeaways that didn't materialize, and sequences where their offense stalled at the wrong time. Mahomes threw 4 touchdowns and Rashee Rice made plays, but the Chiefs also gave away yardage and momentum through penalties that compounded mistakes on the field. Coach Reid acknowledged that. You can see both sides of the scoreboard debate. Bad calls hurt, but missed chances hurt just as much. Yahoo Thethau. What this loss does to Kansas City is immediate and practical. It drops them back to .500 and turns the rest of the schedule into a must-win gauntlet if they want to keep playoff hopes alive. For the Cowboys, the win is a momentum shove, one that'll be whispered about for the officiating, but real in the standings. In the long view, games like this often become touchstones for both teams. A what-if for Kansas City and a what next for Dallas. Coaches will review film, officials will presumably review mechanics, and social media will move on until the next headline rips open the same arguments. Reuters. If you want the image that'll stick, a late Dallas first down that came with a whistle, a replay, and 1,000 takes, and the same stadium that had cheered two teams now arguing whether the call made was part of the game or a replacement for it. Football is noisy. Sometimes the noise is the point. Tonight, the noise will outlive the box score. NFL.com.